Welcome back, golf fans. Chris Durrell here with Jagerbaum's Fantasy Sports. With me is Dane. How's it going, buddy?
It's going good. Ready for an awesome week.
Yeah, we're here to talk some DFS. DFS PGA preview. This week we got a unique format for DFS. Only happens once a year. The WGC Dell Technologies Match play. Some of the funnest week for strategy-wise of the DFS year. So let's just dig right into it here. I want to know, first of all, some of the different strategies and some of the rules, I guess, that you use, because I know you use an optimizer, SaberSim. So I'm really curious to what kind of rules you put in place for an event like this.
Yeah, so I've already got all of my rules inside of the optimizer. So I'm going to show those right now and kind of talk through them. So like you said, I do use SaberSim, and we are working on something with them. Hopefully we'll be able to share that with you guys here in the next month or two. So if you are using a different optimizer, most of them have options to go in and input rules. And that's kind of the main thing that I do first here on Monday for this match play, because if you don't build your teams right, you almost completely write yourself off when it comes to this match play tournament. You want to have the opportunity to get 4 in that final 4. And you want to have a chance to get 6 in the final 8. And, you know, it seems like every year that you hear this through the industry, and it still ends up people don't build their teams right. And if I think back to previous years, sometimes, you know, through the industry on top of the people who actually get it right, you get people that, in my opinion, are just kind of wrong in that they say, well, what are the chances that you're going to get 6 of the final 8 or 4 in the final 4? And I mean, you're capping. If you get 2 that are going to match up in the Sweet 16 of this thing, it just limits your upside so much. And I just don't see any reason to do that. Last year, I multi-entered, set all these rules. I only got 1 6 of 6, and it ended up being a real runner there on Saturday. It got, I think,
Remember that
4 or 5 of the last 8, and it ended up getting just screwed in that second round on Saturday. I had like Rahm lose to Scheffler, Fleetwood lose to Horschel. It was a horrible ending to that lineup, but it was built right, and I had an awesome sweat. One more thing before I get into the rules is I think something else you can do in this week is if you don't have the means to or the bankroll to max enter 150, I think this is a week that you can get away with doing 50 lineups, 75 lineups in whichever contest you want, whether it's the $5 150 max or the $20 150 max, whatever it is. I think you can get away with doing less than the max number of lineups, because if you build all of your teams correctly, you're still going to be ahead of most of the people who are building lineups. So I think you can do that. I ended up doing 75 last year or something like that in the main $15 or $20. So I think you can definitely be ahead of the field, even if you're not doing the full 150. Jumping into these rules, if you're on SaberSim, if you click build lineups there, that is where you have to put in the rules. It's just like you're going in to build lineups. You can also exit out of here after you go in right here, and it does save throughout the rest of the week. So you can kind of go back and forth between setting exposures and setting your rules. But as you can see, I got 12 rules in right here. I went in and set 8 different rules here first. And if you look at Chris's sheet, which we'll do here in just a minute, and look at the bracket, what I've done here is took the 2 groups that would meet in the Sweet 16. So Group 1, the winner of that's going to play the winner of Group 16. I only want less than or equal to one of those players in my lineups. Same thing all the way through. So if anybody was going to meet in the Sweet 16, I only want one of those. That covers your rule of only having one person in a group as well. So that's what I did first, those 8 different rules. And then if you expand it out a little bit, I did per of the color quadrants that Chris has, which is those 4 color quadrants. One of those players in each of those is going to make it to the Final Four. So what I did was add all of those players in, and then I want one.
I'll give you that for a second.
Of those players and max 2. So I don't want more than 2 because, that's the way you get 6 of the final 8. But I definitely want 1 in each quadrant because I want one to be able to make it to that Final Four.
Yep, right in here.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely, I love that. And that's kind of where I start as well. Is I go through each color quadrant first, and I try and pick my winner out, each group first, and just try and play it out through here. And then with my DFS lineup, once I've built out the bracket, if I keep coming to 4 different players in that Final Four, they're going to be like my core 4 in my lineups. Mm-hmm. And then I'll kind of build around that. So it comes down to your rules. I'm hand building, but if you have the time to use an optimizer, being able to, do you want to add your, there we go. SaberSim definitely is set up there where you can add those rules like that. It takes some time, but then when you're making, 50, 75, 150 lineups like that, it is just amazing. You're not going to get those lineups. You're not going to have to go through and manually audit them after as much as you would, especially doing them manually, missing on a few spots or just, other optimizers. So I love it.
Right. Yeah. You always know your teams are built correctly, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what happens. I think this is another week strategy wise that you can leave salary on the table. So I've not went in and done that yet, but I think you can lower the amount that you have as far as leaving salary on the table more than, usually you're
normal
not leaving
event
more than 1,000 or probably less on the table in a given week. But I think you can even expand that to 3,000, depending on who your core guys are. If you like a lot of those value plays to get out, get crazy with it because it's not going to be the top 16 seeds that make it through. And probably not even half of those are going to make it through if we can gather anything from previous years. So,
yep, I agree with you there for sure.
And awesome. I expand my player pool a little bit as well. Even building, 70, 50, 75 lineups. Usually I would have a very, very tight core. In this format, I do expand it out a little bit. I don't go super, super heavy on one guy. If he loses one match, he could be out, depending on what happens with sudden death and all that. So, cut people out of your pool for sure, but don't go super heavy would be my recommendation there.
Yep, absolutely. No, I'm with you there for sure. So with that, we will jump in, and what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go group by group and pick out a favorite, maybe an upset winner in each group, looking at the odds, which I've added to the bracket on the sheet here. Also this year, I've added a little bit in terms of the course history. So a couple notes there with that. They're at Austin Country Club. The match play goes back to, I believe, like 98 or 99, 1999, but it's been here at Austin Country Club since 2016. So you've got 5 years of data going off that. If you're looking at the finishes section here, I'm just going to make this bigger here for a second. If you're looking at the finishes, anything 9th or better, that means they've made it through the group stage and into the round of 16. I've also got that, how many times they've made it through the round of 16 over the last 5 years, average finish. And then I've added the records for the group. So group records, playoff records, and then add them together, overall records in the match play at this course. Not overall match play. I'm not looking at any other match play stats. We have enough sample size where I think we can just stick with looking at Austin Country Club. So that's kind of some of the stuff that we're looking at. I've also split them up into groups on the main sheet, so it does look a little bit different this week as well. But again, very important I'm going to use the word optimize. I know Ruvi on Twitter was saying this week is the week when touts will use the word optimize a lot. So I'm going to make sure I use the word optimize as much as possible during the video. But it's true though. You really, to give yourself the best chance to win, and I don't have the winning lineup from last year, but almost guaranteed it was the Final Four for sure. players in it, and then like 2 players obviously that are going to make it into the round before that. So it's just about not stacking 2 players from the same group in your lineup, or even more than 2 players from one quadrant, we'll call it, just to kind of optimize, like you said, getting all 4 players in your lineup to that final 4, and then 2 other players optimally. I mean, if you get all 4 players to the final 4, you're most likely cashing, even in GPPs, at least min cashing, and you're going to be chasing things down if you get another one of those players that gets to the quarterfinals here as well. So with that, let's just jump in here. Group 1, we got Rahm, Reed, Cameron Young, who's first time here, and then Sebastian Munoz. So yeah, Young is the only one that hasn't played here. Rahm has runner-up in 2017 and T5 last year. He's got a pretty good record overall in the group, 6-3-3. The playoffs was a little bit shaky. 2017 was pretty good, but overall, he's the by far favorite here. Who do you like in Group 1?
Oh, I think it's definitely Rahm, and I think he'll be my favorite pay up for sure. Like I said, not even really looking at salary this week, to be honest. With him being that high priced, I'm not worried about it. There's plenty of value plays that you can filter in. But he got an awesome draw here. Patrick Reed just, kind of out of form right now. I know he's been known in the past as a good match player. Cameron Young, first go around here, been playing well this year. But my favorite too, I'll have a ton of Rahm, I believe, and then sprinkle in some Munoz as well. I think he could potentially make a run here.
So you're kind of liking they play each other the first round. So you're kind of liking whoever. I think I agree with you there. Or if Rahm could easily go out, smash this group, 3-0 and move on.
Yeah.
Munoz, if he beats Rahm in the first day, he could carry that momentum over into like say a 2-1 record or something like that, and make it through for sure. So I like that. Maybe if you were building, let's say 10 lineups and you had 6 Rahm, maybe if Rahm's like your favorite pay up, you go Rahm 6 times, and then maybe you do like 2 or 3 with Munoz if you think he's going to be the other guy, because he was only 6,300. So then if you go with Munoz, who's 6,300 in that first group, that leaves you, you're able to then not have to take a shot with someone like Munoz in your other lineups or in your other spots in that lineup, and really target some of these other guys. So I definitely like that strategy. It's Rahm number 1 for me. Number 2 for me actually would be Reed, just because of his match play experience. I'm just kind of looking at his stats here over the last couple of rounds. It was good to see him at the Players come back and finally gain some strokes on approach, but he was terrible. He almost lost 6 strokes off the tee there, 1.7 approach. And then he had the only reason he almost got a top 25 there, he gained how many strokes here? He was 9 strokes putting. So I don't know if he can carry that over.
I mean, that can play in match play a little more than normal. I mean, the putter, it's all about the putter this week. So if you even drain a couple 35 footers against a guy who's hitting it to 5 or 10 feet and missing them, that's going to start getting in their head. I mean, you can easily run away with it if you got a hot putter.
This is a wonderful match play course for the decisions you have to make on a lot of these holes. Yeah. It's small greens. They're like 5,500 square feet. So some of the smallest, not pebble smaller by any means, but they're not only small, but they're undulated. There's a lot of elevation changes. There's water. There's deep sand bunkers with like real high walls around some of these greens. It's a great match play venue. And I definitely agree with you. Someone like I'm just going to pop this up here on the screen. Dobb put in here, average winning odds over the last 11 has been plus 3,800. So yeah, we're not always getting the favorite. Like looking at the course history here, and I'll flip over to that shortly. Slide over here. Oh, of course. We had like Billy Horschel last year. I believe his odds were in the 60s. I don't have that in front of me what the odds were. Kistner before that had lower odds. Bubba was up there, but he was more like a plus 2,500, I think, plus 3,000 in 2018. Dustin Johnson would have been a favorite that year. I think he was number 1 in 2017, not 100% on that. And then Jason Day. So the last 3 years for sure have been lower odds guys. And so ultimately, I'm just looking for players that are coming in hot. Rahm's starting to heat up, so he's definitely number 1 for me. probably not going to actually have any exposure to anyone else because in that range. So moving on to number 2, who do you got?
Yeah, the second group, a little more wide open for me. I mean, Morikawa struggled here last year in his debut, 0-2-1. I don't like Kokrak really, but Sergio, man, he is smashed here at this course. I think he sets up as a strong, tough matchup for Morikawa. McIntyre played well here last year. I think this is going to be a tough group for Morikawa. Obviously, you got to have him as the favorite, but I could easily see Sergio or McIntyre getting hot in this format and taking him out.
What I like about Sergio is he's got a red hot putter right now. He's gained strokes. The Genesis 1.8, Arnold Palmer 5.2, and the Players he gained 3 strokes. The approach shot's been terrible. Off the tee, he's gaining distance as well as accuracy. He's gaining over 3 strokes, all 3 of those events as well. So just the irons are off a little bit. But being that he's got a red hot putter, I love seeing that at this event. If he keeps that up, like you said, you start draining a few 20, 25 footers and guys are missing them, that can just completely turn a match on a dime. So I like that price at 8,300 as well. I think he's going to be my top guy in this range. The model likes him second best behind Morikawa, obviously. Comes down to odds. It comes down to like Morikawa is the best iron player in the game, but that's kind of where I'm looking at. Sergio has made it through each of the last 3 years, making it to the semifinal or the quarterfinals in 2 straight years. So he would be my number 1. If you really want to go cheap, McIntyre, I probably won't have Morikawa. I do like Rahm more than Morikawa here. So it's I got it narrowed down to Sergio and McIntyre. I'm probably going to have pretty close to equal. I would say maybe like 55. I'd probably split them up 55 to 45.
Yeah, I think I'll have more exposure to Sergio than Morikawa, just because of price and things. I'm maybe kind of misled when I said, you got to like him as the favorite. But as far as DFS, I'll definitely have more exposure to Sergio than Morikawa.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to keep just going through these quadrants here. So we'll jump now to group 16 and 15. We'll stay at the top here. So group 16's got Koepka, Lowry, Varner, and Van Rooyen. So that's an interesting one. The odds, Vegas has got Koepka and Lowry right at 33 and 35 to 1. And then Varner and Van Rooyen are at 125. Varner won one across the pond not too long ago here. What are your thoughts on this one? Are you just backing up the Brinks truck?
I don't think I can get behind Varner in this group. He would definitely be 4th for me. EVR down there, he got out of the group last year. I think he was in sudden death that he came out. I think he got trashed the first day and then came back and won the next 2 days and then snuck out in the sudden death. So I think you have to at least consider him at that price. Going up against an inconsistent Brooks Koepka, you're not sure what you're going to get out of him, but this course would seem to fit him. I do like Brooks. Lowry's been playing awesome. This is just a tough group for me. And then you look and see who they're probably going to be matched up with in the round of 16, which is Jon Rahm. So if I'm going to have a ton of exposure to Rahm, it kind of limits how much of group 16 I can have anyway. So, if I had to say who I'm going to have most exposure to right now out of this group, I do think Brooks is it. But I will have some of Lowry and some of EVR as well, but not a ton.
So Rahm isn't my favorite overall pay up, but he is my favorite in that group 1. He's my favorite. So I'm not going to have any Koepka or Lowry. Lowry's been trash here. What is he? Where are we down here? Yeah, he hasn't even really come close to getting out of the group stage. So not really looking to like Varner as maybe like a low-owned GPP play up there, but I do like Van Rooyen a little bit better. So if Rahm isn't my favorite overall play, I'm not going to have say like 50, 60% exposure to him. I like going with, a little throw-ins of Varner and Van Rooyen in my non-ROM builds, if that makes sense. So in the lineups where I'm not building around ROM as my top pay up, I do like going with value guys in Varner and Van Rooyen coming out of this round of 16 and into the quarterfinals, one of the two of them. Because if ROM somehow gets upset, I think that gives us some leverage on what could be ownership, because he's got a pretty good draw here overall, how he's played at these. So if he somehow goes down and one of those two comes out of there, I definitely just like the value there. Like you said, Van Rooyen played really good here last year. Varner's coming in. He's gained strokes on approach in 5 of his last 6, 5.2 at the Players on his T6. He gained strokes in every strokes gain category, so he's coming in tremendous form. Putting in 2 straight. And Van Rooyen, guess the Players, his last event, he gained 11.3 strokes on approach. That might be one of the highest approach gains I've seen in one single event this whole entire season. He was good around the green.
He might be the guy out of this group.
He lost 4 strokes putting, though. Okay. He definitely made up with it. If he only lost like 2 strokes putting, he probably would have been right at the top of the leaderboard on Sunday. That's crazy. So if he can find the putter, those irons are red hot for him.
Yeah.
And then jumping over to 15, back into the purple here, we got Answer, Simpson, Watson, and Harman. They all, looking at the odds here, this is a very close group, very tough to call. So you really have to decide if you're kind of paying up here and just kind of foreshadowing here. I really like Xander here in this whole purple region. He's my favorite pay up here. So I am probably going to completely stay away from group 15 myself, I think. But Brian Harman, I'm interested in at that price point. These are all sub 8K guys here. Just because I think in that group itself, he's going to be a little bit lower owned, and he's been excellent here. He's made twice, 2 for 2, quarterfinals, and the round of 16. So he's 4-1-1 in group play. He just has struggled a little bit in the playoffs, but getting through the group stage at 7,600, I think will be enough to pay off value for a guy. So I don't mind someone that comes out of their group and then kind of dives out first round to the round of 16 there, jumps out, loses right away. I'm fine with that at a guy at 7,600 or less. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I really like Harman. And if you look at the bracket there, I think it's fine. You can definitely play Xander with like a Brian Harman, because they're not going to meet there until the quarterfinals. So that could be part of your, if you do get 6 of the last 8 and it's built correctly, there you're going to have two matches that are your guys against each other. Harman gets a matchup with Webb Simpson on day 1. I think that is going to set up very well for him. I think he knocks Webb Simpson off on day 1. Webb coming off the injury. Harman just smashes here, as does Bubba Watson. And Abraham Answer has been close to getting out of his group in both the times he's played here. Very good record in group play. I will have out of this group most exposure to Brian Harman. Some also, though, to Answer and Bubba. And if you look at the group that they're going to be coming out to play in the round of 16, we kind of talked about we didn't really love anybody in group 2 other than we liked Sergio. So start narrowing that down. My favorites out of that to reach the quarterfinals as far as exposure is Sergio and Brian Harman.
Well, so we are consensus on that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to put some of the consensus picks here up as well. And something else we do throughout this tournament is we post our daily matchup bets. I'm going to have a tab up here. So instead of, I'll have probably 3 outrights total in this tournament, but then I'm going to be doing daily bets. It's just, you can normally do 1 versus 1 bets, but I really like doing it at this event with the match play format. So I'll have those posted as well. And I will be updating this. I will have records posted on here. DK ownership percentage will be updated as the tournament goes on as well. But as we're going here, I'm just going to kind of go through some that we are kind of consensus on and throw those there. I do like the Sergio versus Harman coming through those groups as well, because the cost isn't very much. You're looking at 7,400 and 8,300. So whichever one gets booted out here and one moves on, I think the value from the one is more than enough to make up for, the losing out in the round of 16 for the other. You're not losing like a Morikawa at 10-5 in the round of 16. You're losing a little bit less. So I really like two value guys coming out there. So I'm on board there. Let's just stay in the purple and just complete it off. This group's 10 and 7. We've got Oosthuizen, Casey, Connors, and Norn, which is another really close group, like in terms of odds. Connors gets the edge in terms of like points per dollar. If you're looking at the price in here at 7,300, and then you got Xander's my favorite in the next one at 25-1. He's one of the outrights I'll be betting this week. 9,600, and then Finau 78, Herbert and Kanaya there 6,100. So that is groups 10 and 7. I just wanted to go look at their records over here. Yeah, so Oosthuizen 500, batting 500 in the group play. Noren has been absolutely amazing in that group. Connors has struggled. Last year he was 0-3. And Casey struggled a little last year, didn't make it through, but 2 of the previous 3, and then he almost did in 2018 there as well. And then up in the group 7. Xander's 4-2 in the groups. I don't know why I don't have his playoff record here, so I missed something on there. 4-4 for Finau, and Herbert and Kanaya first time. I just really like Xander's path here. I think his group is one of the easiest to come out of, knock on wood. And then, going into the next group, he's definitely going to face a stiffer test, but his path to the semifinals, I think, is one of the easiest, at least that I'm looking at it. And then out of this other group, if I was playing one in my non-Xander lineups, Connors is going to be the lowest owned. I think Noren is a good play at 7,800 as well. And if you did that, again, going with, this whole quadrant could be like value, where as long as you're getting 2 of these guys coming out, and Xander's only 9,600. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing that quadrant. How you feeling about those two groups?
That's exactly how I'm seeing it, because Alex Noren is definitely my favorite out of group 10. Obviously won't have him in any lineups with Xander, but Xander gets an awesome draw, like you said. It's going to be a tough matchup. Whoever he ends up going up against in that round of 16 on Saturday morning is going to be a tough matchup for him. Lock in the purple quadrant. But, group 10 is definitely much more wide open for me. Louis has not been playing his best to start the year. Casey has been playing pretty well. Connors, struggled, like you said. He has come on a little bit more lately. As far as current form, but Xander, I like him a lot out of group 7, and Noren is going to be my most exposed out of group 10. Obviously not playing those 2 in the same lineup.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So we kind of got there. All right, so let's jump across to group 9 and 8 then. We got Bryson, who's back. I'll ask you how you feel about that in a second here. He's with Gooch, Westwood, and Bland. And then DJ in group 8 is with Homa, Wolf, and another Canadian, Hughes, on the other side of the bracket here. So, again, this comes down to how much, if you're using Rahm or not, really, for me, and how the whole rest of this quadrant goes. Because I guess if we're going quadrants, it would be Rahm. Schauffele would be my favorite pay up in the purple quadrant. And then we'll talk about the bottom 2 here in a second. So, it really comes down to your builds now, because Rahm would be my favorite pay up in this quadrant. So then in this groups 9 and 10, I'm probably going to look for value. We got 8 and 9. Let's go look at their records here and see if we can pick anything. DJ won this in 2017. Since then, he hasn't made it through group stage. The only one that has made it through group stage, Hughes, last year made it through, lost out in the first. He went 2-0-1 in the groups. And then obviously he lost out here. So does anything stand out between 8 and 9 to you? Or how you feeling on strategy, like I just kind of was looking at there?
Yeah, so this is kind of a tough spot, because, they are going to match up with Rahm later on, but you can definitely play one of these in Rahm lineups. But like you said, I like the idea of going toward the value guys if you're playing Rahm, instead of going with either DJ or Bryson with Rahm. I think that makes a lot of sense, but as far as the specific groups, of course, Bryson comes back and gets like one of the better draws which is annoying because we have no idea what we're getting with Bryson, especially this is an event that if he makes it deeper in this thing, he's going to be playing like 5 rounds. Just if he gets to the quarterfinals, he would have to play 5 rounds of golf this week. That's going to be tough on him for sure. As far as who would I pick to upset him, I think Gooch is kind of the first guy that I think a lot of people are going to like coming out of there. I think I'll have exposure to him and Bryson a little bit as well. But in the other group, DJ, struggled here last year in what was a pretty easy group to come out of. I remember because I had quite a bit of exposure to him, and he just kept choking away. But Max Homa, you would think his game sets up well for match play. Wolf is a no-go for me. Completely X. And Mackenzie Hughes, he's the type of guy that's going to just start draining 30, 40 footers on these guys.
His putt in.
Easily come out. He might be a prime candidate to mash up with Rahm above. So I think that makes some sense.
Every time Mackenzie Hughes pops on the leaderboard, I don't have any exposure, and he's like 1% to 3% owned. And then the weeks when he is like high owned and everyone's on him at 6,500 or 6,800, he absolutely busts. But you are absolutely correct in what you just said with the putter. He is a guy that could just start draining those long putts and just come out of that group on his putting alone. The ball striking hasn't been too bad. He gained 0.6 and 0.3 strokes on approach at the Honda and the Players. He's gained strokes putting in 6 of his last 7 around the green and 6 of his last 7 as well. So the whole game is there. Nothing is really like way out of whack in terms of, gaining strokes in one certain area or another. So that is a good punt play. I think you could put together with Rahm. So that's another point. We were talking about you want to get 4 guys that are coming through, and you don't really want to mix a bunch of guys in the same quadrant in your lineup. 2 probably max, like you said, coming out, meeting in the quarterfinals. So 2 players. Now, if you're doing that and spending up with one, you definitely don't want to spend up with the other. In my opinion, that just seems like a lot of salary dedicated where you're only going to get one of them coming through to the semifinals. So if you're going with Rahm, I love going down into this next group down here and finding that value. So Hughes, definitely. I'm with you on Hughes. I'm with you on Homa. And to be honest, coming out of this group, I'm probably going to fade Bryson and go with Gooch coming out of there. But my favorites for DFS coming back to the quarterfinals, possibly meeting Rahm up here, would be Homa and Hughes. I'm probably going to have a little more exposure to Homa. He has been on fire lately. I'm going to bring across his player card here. I think that's up on the screen.
I will be right back.
Yep, no problem. I'll keep talking here. So this is his last 4 events I've been looking at going back to the Phoenix Open. T14 at the Phoenix Open, T10 at the Genesis, T17 at Arnold Palmer, T13. So T17 or better in 4 straight. Gaining strokes, tee to green, 4.3, 4.4, 7.9, 8.7. He's gaining strokes everywhere. The putters let him down a little bit over those last 2 events, but he's still getting top 20 finishes just because of the elite ball striking. So if he can get on a run and get on one of these streaks where he's gaining 2 or 3 strokes to the field, I know it's not a full field tournament by any means, but if he gets a hot putter, I think that ball striking, he's going to have a lot of chances for birdie. So Homa would be, if we go back over to, why did I erase that off there? Go back to the whole look here. Homa would be the one I would pick to come out of there. I like Gooch coming out of there. We didn't really pick one up here, but we're going to throw in the punt play just because we got Rahm coming out of the top there, so we'll throw him up there. It was Bryson or Gooch. For me, it's Gooch. Homa, who's your favorite in Group 8 again?
Group what?
If you're filling out a bracket?
Either Hughes or Homa.
Okay, so we're on the same wavelength there. Those are the only 2 guys I want in there. And I'd probably be, on my exposure out of those 2, probably 60-40 between them, a little bit more Homa than Gooch. So I could see Homa coming through there as well. So let's jump down to the bottom of the board now. Groups 5 and 12, another one of my favorites here. Scheffler, Fitzpatrick, Fleetwood, and Poulter. Horschel, defending champ. Peters, Hoagie, and Minwoo Lee. So, couple things here, and this is a difficult quadrant for me for a couple reasons. I like Horschel; he's the defending champ. How's he done overall? That's Group 12. So, just missed out in 2019. Missed the cut by quite a bit. I think he went. I believe he was 0-3 in 2016, or 1-2, 1-2-0, or something like that in 2016. And he won it last year. He's coming in with good form too. So I really like him coming out of that group. He's the only one I'm going to target coming out of there. I really like Scotty Scheffler up here. So that is a little bit difficult because I can't really have both of those guys. Definitely not in the same lineup. I'm going to have more exposure. Scheffler would be my top pay up on this side of the bracket. Xander on my other side, I guess is what I'm saying. How are you looking at 5 and 12?
Yeah, you got to love Scheffler, but like you said, Horschel did get an awesome draw. So he is the only guy that I'm going to have exposure to in Group 12. As far as Group 5, man, Scheffler, definitely one of my favorite pay-ups. But he got such a horrid draw. I mean, Poulter, the match play specialist, Fleetwood, got out last year and made it pretty far. Man, this is just Fitzpatrick has not been great here by any means, but he's playing well in stroke play events recently with his current form, so at least has to be respected somewhat.
Is this the group of death?
Yeah, I think it is. I think Scheffler is definitely my favorite with just the way he's playing and the way he sets up for match play. I'll have quite a bit of exposure to him. He'll be neck and neck with Rahm probably as my most exposed pay up. There's another guy we'll get to here in a minute that's going to be very close to them. I mean, by the end of the week, he might clips them. But Scheffler, second for me is probably Tommy. In that group, I'll probably have some Tommy exposure and then some Poulter. But this is one of the groups I was talking about before we hopped on. I might honestly end up having a small bit of exposure to all of them because I think any of them could make a run in this event.
Yes, so we'll stay in this quadrant again, and we'll go down to 13 and 14 because I kind of agree with you. I think the winner of this quadrant is definitely coming out of what is this, blue? Colorblind here. Yeah, blue. Coming to the semifinals out of here, I believe is going to be Scheffler or Horschel. That's who I'd put my money on. I'm not going to have very much exposure at all to these two groups in 13 and 14 with Hattenberger, Bezuidenhout, and Siwoo Kim, and then Group 4 with Cantlay, Sung Jae, Seamus Power, and Keith Mitchell. Is one of those other favorite pay-ups down in this group for you?
Yeah, Patrick Cantlay. I think he's came very close. He's kind of so close to getting out of his group. He's played well here, just hasn't been able to hop over the edge, but he gets a nice draw for me here. I think, Sung Jae Im is probably his toughest competition. Well, him or Keith Mitchell. Mitchell's been playing good in his current form. So I think you got to, maybe give him the edge over Power for sure would be last. And then Sung Jae, just hasn't been playing that great recently. So Cantlay, I really like to come out of this group. He's played well in kind of the Ryder Cup and President's Cup type of deal. So I think Cantlay fits the mold very well, and he's going to get what I think is a pretty good matchup in the round of 16. I know Hatton and Berger should probably duke out Group 13. I think it's definitely going to be one of those two. And I'm very much leaning towards only having exposure to three guys in that bottom side, which is Cantlay and the two I just mentioned, Hatton and Berger, maybe a sprinkle of Keith Mitchell. But those two, I think those four are the only ones that I'll have any exposure to in that 8. And I think definitely could make a run. And I think Cantlay has the best chance to get to that quarterfinals.
I like Cantlay's price there too. 6th in price as a top pay up is pretty nice given his group here. Coming out of his group, I think he's got a really good chance, almost as good a chance, I think, as we talked about with Schauffele over here. of coming out of there. And that's kind of just where you have to start. And then it just kind of goes from there. I mean, you can look at the rest, but we know there's going to be upsets and things that happen. So if you can just get your guy out of your group, I think that's the first step in cashing. And then from there, obviously, we're going to need a lot of luck. Guys lining up right, the right guys in our lineups getting 6 out of 6, like you said, is very easy when we're sitting here talking about getting them through. But again, then they go out and play. So let's move across over to the other side now and look at group 6 and 11 and 14 and 3. We'll start with 6 is Justin Thomas, Kistner, Leishman. This is another tough group here, and I think we could maybe pick an upset winner. Group 11 then is Spieth, Scott, Rose, and Bradley. So in group 6, Justin Thomas is playing really well. He's trending in the right time. Let's go look at his record here. So he's made it through just once in 5 trips. He's played here every year, made it to the semifinals in 2018. He is not my favorite here. I'm always targeting Kevin Kistner no matter what group he's in. I read something on Twitter, and I'm going to have to find it. Sorry, I can't attribute it to anyone. I don't remember who posted it, but they said 2 players that PGA Tour players talk about being you don't want to play are Kevin Kistner and Scotty Scheffler. So I can see it with Kistner. I didn't realize that was Scheffler. So that's new, but definitely like the price. He's always right in that 7,600 range. He's definitely always someone I like betting because he's always in that 50, 60 to 1 odds range. He has only made it through once here, and it was his win in 2019. 7-5 in the group record here. Luke List hasn't been very good at all, so he's an X right off the sheet. For me, Leishman maybe a sprinkle in over there, but it's Kevin Kistner for me in this group. And then group 11, I like Jordan Spieth. That's 11. Let's go down here. It's a pretty tough group here too with Scott, Rose, and Bradley. But Spieth has made it through once last year, almost made it through in 2018, but he's got 9, 3, and 3. He has, if there's any player that has played, maybe not been, let's put it, not been rewarded for how good he's played at this event, it's Jordan Spieth. He's 9, 3, and 3 in the group records, and only once, if I go look at the course history here, should have had this written down. I didn't. Got distracted with basketball lock. So he was 2-1 in 2018, didn't advance. He was the year he advanced, he was 3-0, lost in the playoffs. 2017, he was 1-1-1. 2019, he was 1-1-1 and 2-0-1. So never has he had a losing record here. He's never lost more than he's won. So I really like that record. I think he can come through. I also think he's going to be low owned. I'm not going to have a whole bunch of exposure, but I definitely like him as maybe a low owned, and he's under 9K. So I really like the value there as well.
Yeah, this kind of 8-man,
my light shining on me.
6 and 11 group is kind of tough to parse there. I think Kistner and JT are the only ones that I'll have any exposure to in group 6. And then 11 is definitely tougher, but I think if you think Jordan Spieth's going to be low on at 8,900, he's played well here. I think you can definitely go him. I'll have quite a bit of exposure to Spieth. And then I think my second favorite in this group is actually Keegan. As crazy as that sounds.
Full Keegan. Friends don't let friends go full Keegan.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Spieth is my favorite, but I'll have some exposure to Keegan Bradley.
Justin Rose was good here. Between 2016, he made it through in 2019, 3-1-2 in the group stages. Not too bad. Lost in the 1 year he went in the playoffs. He lost out in the round of 16. So not too bad there. I just think that between Spieth, Scott, and Rose, it could be fairly spread out. And then I just think in this overall bracket, you're going to see ownership with Kistner's probably going to be the highest owned in this whole quadrant. I think Thomas may be behind him, and then kind of split between these guys. So I just don't think Spieth's going to be, let's say, top 5. I think if you're looking for a guy who you think is going to make the final 4 and he's going to be outside the top 5 in ownership, I think that's maybe a good hedge, I guess, if you will, a GPP leverage play. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at with Spieth there.
Doe is telling me not to go full Keegs, so I'm really being discouraged away from Keegan Bradley right now.
I like the I like the ball striking with Keegan for sure, and this is definitely. But those 2 years he just hasn't been great here. But he's coming in with some really good form. I want to see his form actually coming into this event in those 2 years. Let's have a look at that because he's 5th in ball striking the last 12 and 24 rounds. So his ball striking is just bang on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's always going to be the putter, and you do want a putter in match play, like I said earlier. But
he's coming in with better form than he ever has into this event as well.
What's crazy is we're talking about this in that saying that I don't, Keegan, we need to stay away because of the putter. But I think the price also plays into this because we're going to get into a guy in this last group that I'm definitely fading. And it's because of the putter and it's because of the price. And I'll let you guess on who that is.
I'm going to guess that you are going to say Victor Hovland.
I'm not.
Are you fading Neiman?
No. Oh, no.
Okay, yeah, that was my first X. I thought you were going to say locked on him, and then you said fade. So I was like, no, it can't be him because of the putter.
It's Zalatoris. I just
yeah. Don't remind me about that putter.
And that is a nice point that you make. I mean, Hovland is not the best putter. So, out of that group, could that be a group that has an upset winner? Sepp Straka has been playing very well this year. I mean, could that be the Sepp upset spot? And then group 14, I mean, obviously Neiman's coming out of there. So, but in all seriousness, I do like Neiman. But I think Russell Henley gives him the most trouble. Kevin Na has looked just not right, even though he's coming to an event that this is a place you would go with Kevin Na usually. But I just don't think he looks right. And McNeely's the late ad here as the alternate. I think Neiman, Russell Henley for sure in group 14, and then some Sepp Straka in group 3. So those are kind of the 3 I'll have the most exposure to in that bottom side.
I'm with you on both of those, Henley and Straka, and then the only other guy I do. It's tough. Let's pull this up here. So we've got Hovland, who look at those irons. He's gained 6.1, 4.5, 9.5 strokes on approach.
He's not been putting bad either.
No, he's just lost 3.1 at the Players. Still got a top 10, but he was gaining strokes before that. I do like Straka. He would be my favorite there. The other one I wanted to look at was Zalatoris. That putting is just absolutely terrible.
It's not going to win match play tournaments. So
no, and he
even if he gets out,
he miss a few and he gets down on it.
Yeah, exactly. And even if he gets out of the group, I don't think he's making it to the quarterfinals, which is where you need him for sure. I think either Henley or Neiman can beat him. One thing I want to go back and look at for Neiman is kind of, may not have the most. Has he played here? Last year he was 1-0-2, so he didn't lose any. But I would like to go back and
they
look
were all close.
Go look at his amateur record in match play. A lot of these guys, like Hovland, he won the USAM, and most of that tournament is match play. So besides like the first 2 rounds, the one he won at Pebble Beach. So all these guys have more experience in just specific match play. Obviously not at this level, not at this course, but still, it does take a certain type of player to win match play. So, maybe Hovland, maybe add a little exposure to him than what I was saying earlier. So Hovland and Sepp on the bottom, and then Neiman and Henley there in group 14.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. So we kind of got a starter around a 16 set there, and just going based off of some of these guys' prices, like we've got a pay up here at 10-2 with Cantley. Scheffler's a little bit more expensive at 11. We've got some value here in these groups. We got Schauffele at 9,600 is nice. We've got Spieth at 8,900 here. Kistner, value. Henley's a nice value at 7,900. Hovland isn't even a bad pay up. He's right there with Cantley, and that's nice that they're kind of opposite each other. If you go that route, both at 10-2 and 10-3, you can stack them together if you feel those are your two top guys. Not real hard to go and pay up. And if say you were going to do that, let's just take Hovland and put him here and here and here. Whoops. And then Cantley to there. So what you'd want to do in building your lineups, if you're building around those two, is then, go up to these top two now. You're probably going to want two value, seven, mid seven and down guys coming out into probably not into the semifinals, but at least into the quarterfinals. So you kind of want to find that path first. And once you get those four players in your lineup, you're going to see what your average is left and kind of go from there. So we'll put Cantley and Hovland and just play around here. So 73, 75. So that kind of takes us back up into this top quadrants here. And we'll pick, if you were to go out of all the guys that we picked coming through here, where would you take your next value play? Do you like Harman down here at 76, maybe?
Yeah, give me Brian Harman and give me Alex Noren too. You can put those in the same lineup. What is Noren priced? Oh, he's higher than I thought.
Yeah, because that was exactly what we talked about earlier. So 7,600 and Harman. Come on, Chris, spell better. Noren. So we're at the 7,000 average, two left.
Oh, that's
so we need to find a punt play. So we can go Van Rooyen possibly. Where else can we go? You can even go a punt play in one of these other ones down here. Like, what's Horschel at? 88, and that's not going to work. What would you do next there with an average of 7? Is this where you take your Van Rooyen shot?
So with the ones we picked to come out, I think you have to pretty much go.
Or this would be a Munoz spot, obviously, because if we're paying up for Cantley and Hovland, we're not going to be jamming in Rom. So that could be maybe a spot where you get the 6,300 Munoz in there.
Yeah,
or Van Rooyen.
Be a Mackenzie Hughes spot.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Could you go Mackenzie Hughes and like Kisner?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
There's a lineup, everybody.
Let's finish that bracket out. Maybe like knock it back to the round of 16, and let's just finish that out to finish the show.
Hughes, okay.
Hoagie,
so...
what group is Hoagie in, Doe? Where is Hoagie? Oh no, he's no. He's not beating Billy Horschel. I'm sorry. No.
Nope, can't do it.
Get out of here.
Hey, Eric, how's it going? Yeah, the wind can definitely play here. That can get that is definitely a defense here at this course. So that always throws a wrench into things and can make it interesting as well. So it's definitely fun to watch on something I'm really impressed with this year. I don't know if anyone uses it, the PGA Tour on ESPN, the PGA Tour Live that's on there. I get it through what's called Golf TV up here in Canada, but it's the same thing. There's so many different streams this year. They actually give us the main event where you can watch all the golf, and instead of commercials, they just cut away to other golfers golfing. It's incredible that it took till 2022 to figure this shit out, but it's there.
Yeah, it is.
And then what else they have, like in some of these other events, and for this one, I'm very interested to see, because in a lot of these other events, you can pick between the players. It was something like it was maybe every single group. Yeah, ESPN Plus in the States, that's what it is. You can pick between all the different groups. So I'm going to have probably 4 or 5 screens loaded up. I absolutely love this event the first few days, kind of like March Madness starting last Thursday as well. So, yeah, so let's finish this out. Scheffler and Horschel, let's just say Scheffler comes through. It's a Scheffler versus Cantley, because then you could, if you're building lineups now, you can go in and you can switch. It's actually a lot easier. So this build would be easier. So I'm going to throw in Horschel there, because it allows you then to maybe get some exposure to Horschel over Cantley if you're building out your bracket that way. So once you build it out, that's when I really start building lineups. So in this build where we've got 2 expensive guys coming out of these bottom 2 quadrants is where we're going to go. We're going to say Van Rooyen comes through. We're going to say Munoz. Van Rooyen beats Munoz. Mackenzie Hughes comes through. I don't know why that showed up the way it did, but Kenzie Hughes, that's what we'll call him here. Is that how it looks on your screen? Kenny Z. Hughes.
Kenny.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it said Kenny Hughes. I was like, okay, I like it.
And then an awesome final that I'd love to see. It's never going to happen because you never get like favorites coming through like that. You'd probably like to see Brian Harmon versus Cantley, but a Hovland versus Cantley would be fun to see.
We got to see the little lefty baby draw all week. Yeah, for sure.
I want to see Spieth versus Hovland. I think that would be fun.
Yeah,
and I think but I'm with you up here, and I do have Xander coming out, not Noren. I know that's a little bit tougher to build. I'd have to make some adjustments probably in one of these other tiers. It would be the Hovland, I think, is where I would go. Possibly like a Spieth Schauffele, I think would be a good semifinal match. And for lineup building, you're looking at 9,600 and 8,900. So, I mean, that's definitely doable where then you can come over here. This could be maybe, I don't think you can get Rahm in there, but I think you could get Cantley at 10-2, 1,100 less. I'm going to put that together right now. Xander, Spieth, Cantley.
And while you're doing that, I think just kind of finishing up my strategy thoughts. If you think, or if go back to what I was saying at the beginning, when there's people in the industry will talk about, what are the chances that you build and get the correct Final Four. I think the only way you're screwed by building your lineups the correct way is if 4 pay-ups get to the Final Four. And, what are the chances of that? I'll take my chances that I don't get screwed by that. I'm not going to sit here and build my teams and hope that 4 10K plus guys get to the Final Four so that my guys that
I don't think it's ever happened
in the 16 or win.
Yep.
For me.
I don't think it's ever happened.
No, it's crazy. This format just breeds craziness because you lose the first day by 5 holes, and then you can win the next 2 days on the last hole, and then you're going up against the guy who you played on day 1 and got your brains beat in on a 1-hole playoff. I mean, you're not out of it. And 2-1, it's just you're not going to see 4 top pay-ups get to the Final Four. That's just my opinion.
Yep, I'm with you there for sure. So Randy says no Cam Young love. So it's just a tough group. We're both very high on Rahm. And then second, we kind of both agreed we like the value. If it's not Rahm coming out of there, we like the punt value, and just kind of comes down to lineup construction. I know Cam Young works in there as well, but we're just both kind of on Munoz there. And I'm not. It's definitely not a group where I'm going to have exposure to more than 2 players in that group. And again, if we're looking at pay-ups coming out of 2 groups, you got to go to the other groups, and that's kind of where at least where I'm starting to look for my value, because if you are just not even optimally, there's that word again, putting it together, just price-wise, if you're paying up for 2 guys and they do get to the quarterfinals, like we said, the chances of 4 guys is just going to be low. So if you got ownership up here and you're fading Rahm, go ahead and, pick your pay up guys maybe in other groups and take your values from that group where you're fading them. The ones where I'm going to have Rahm, I'm probably going to, find my value. And maybe those are the ones where I'm going to have Kistner coming through at 7,600. And then like Brian Harmon and Kistner maybe meeting in the semifinals, one of them going to the final type thing and mixing with Rahm and Cantley or something like that. So yeah, I agree. It's just, I'll come into this tab. I'll make a copy of this tab and I will literally come in and make 50 scenarios. And just, if I make a scenario that I really, really like, I will go and build lineups now, say 10 lineups around this scenario that's printed out here on the screen. And then what I'll do is I will come and maybe switch out one of the pay-ups, kind of like I said, where we take Cantley out and say Horschel beats him. Well, now we need another pay-up. Maybe this is where the Mackenzie Hughes comes to the final. Then we can come over here and, pay up instead of Spieth. This is where we can have Hovland coming through to him in the final or something like that. And just maybe mix up 1 or 2 spots in the bracket and then build a few more lineups around that. And then just go ahead and just totally redo the bracket again with different guys coming through with a different core of pay-ups. And that's where I'll start, is I'll grab my couple pay-ups and just kind of build, not obviously put in all the top pay-ups coming through because you just can't build lineups off that. So that's the way I work at it. That's the strategy that I go. I love building lineups manually for this. I know you are a master, so we will, when it comes to the putting the rules in. So I'm interested just to kind of compare throughout the week how our lineups look, where they're sitting, and compare our little circles on our screen. So anything else? Any closing thoughts?
I think that's it for me. I think really hit some key spots. So I'm ready for an awesome week.
If DeChambeau is less than 10%, would you take a flyer and pivot to him at all? If he's less than 10% out, I think he's worth a flyer. I know Dane said he likes him for sure, and we'll have some exposure to him. I don't, as of right now, I won't have any exposure, but I will check. This locks on Wednesday, so I'll be checking Wednesday morning on FanShare, Fantasy National, all the places that have ownership, SaberSim as well, and just kind of see where it's at. But if he was sub 10%, I'm going to definitely work him into a few lineups. I'll probably end up throwing more money down and just build a couple separate lineups if that's the case. Just because I think that's a great spot at 9,300 and his group, even just this whole quadrant here, I think he would have a chance. But as of now, I'm not, just because he's kind of been off on injury, hasn't played professional event in a while. So as of now, I'm off of him. But yeah, this is kind of our initial thoughts for the week. Like I said, it's early lock. We got Wednesday at, what do we got? 8:20 a.m. So that is 10:20 a.m. Eastern time. So I'll be checking that all out. I'll have final thoughts. We're going to have thoughts in our Discord chat. If you want to get in, check that out. Head over to patreon.com/Jagerbombs for $10 a month American. You can sign up to our PGA package. It gives you access to our sheet. We're going to have rankings up, all of our top bets throughout the tournament. Gives you access to our Discord chat, all our PGA channels, one-on-one coaching, and all that sort of stuff. And if you just want to get in and try out our Discord for free, we got the free trial link in the video below. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Really appreciate it. We'll see you in chat if you got more questions, or you can just comment on the video below if you're watching this after and not during the live session of it. Leave some comments below. Really appreciate it. Hit that like button. Share the video with friends. Really helps things out. And yeah, leave your questions below. Have a great week, everyone. Good luck out there.
Good luck.